Chief Davis or Chief Nielsen, would you all just step up so we can start the meeting? Thank you, just right on time. Thanks for your adaptability, your flexibility. Appreciate it. And it seems like we are ready to begin. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's nice to see so many. Yeah, we are pretty close to the wall. But thank you all for being here. This evening, I'm Ronald McFadden. I have the pleasure of serving as the chair of the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners. And we'd like to welcome you to the September 12th public board meeting. If you have not done so yet, if you are joining us virtually, please mute your phone. If you are in this space, please make sure that your phone is turned off on silent. Anyone who does not mute their phone on the call may be muted by the call moderator or removed from the call. Additionally, if you are not a board member or the CEO and her staff, please turn your video off. I will now read a roll call of the board to identify who is present. Please identify yourself first. Just let us know that you're here. Vice Chair Roberts.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Coy.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Eblagi.
Present.
Commissioner Esposito.
Present.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Present.
Commissioner Muhammad.
Present.
Commissioner Reed.
Present.
Commissioner Sally.
Present.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Present.
And I am present. We are all present. Thank you all for being present tonight. Is there a motion to reopen the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. Is there a second?
Second, Roberts.
Thank you, Commissioner Roberts. All in favor? Vice Chair Roberts.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Commissioner Eblagi.
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Commissioner Muhammad.
Yes.
Commissioner Reed.
Affirmative.
Thank you. Commissioner Sally.
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
And I am in favor. That motion passes unanimously. We'll now have the presentation of colors by the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps at Baltimore Technic Institute High School. Is it high school at the end, or is it just the Baltimore Polytechnic Institute? It's just the Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. I don't want to get that wrong. So let's stand as they present the colors. Thank you to the Polytechnic Institute, JROTC, where we have Cadet Peter Myers, we have Cadet William Donahue, we have Cadet Caleb Ando, we have Cadet Denico Davis, and we have Cadet Aram Harapatan. We want to thank them, and we want to thank the staff at the Polytechnic Institute, because that particular JROTC unit is an award-winning unit, and so we're glad to have them participate tonight. I'll now turn it over to Commissioner Muhammad, who will read the names of those, unfortunately, that we have lost.
Thank you. We want to take a moment of silence. We would like to take the time to recognize the passing of a city school student. He was a part of our school community and will be remembered fondly. Tonight, we send our deepest condolences to his family and friends. Isaiah Boone was an 8th grader at Baybrook Elementary Middle School. He was always a joy to have around. He was very kind and caring. Isaiah loved to cook. He always shared that he wanted to be a chef. Isaiah will be greatly missed by his family, school community, and friends. Moment of silence, please. Thank you, Commissioner McFadden.
Thank you, Commissioner Muhammad. Is there a motion to approve the prior open session minutes?
So moved, Robert.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. All in favor? Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Eblagi,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Muhammad,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sally,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington,
Yes.
and I am in favor. That motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion to approve the closed session summaries?
So moved, Robert.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second, Sally.
Thank you, Commissioner Sally. All in favor? Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Eblagi,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Muhammad,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sally,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
I'm also in favor. That motion passes unanimously. So to our guests, welcome this evening to our September 12th board meeting. We're happy that you all are joining us tonight, whether in person or virtually. I want to take some time to acknowledge the donors that have made contributions to the Fund for Educational Excellence on behalf of city schools in school year 22-23. Last year, the total amount of funding granted to the Fund for Educational Excellence on behalf of Baltimore City Public Schools was $8,359,974. This funding ranged across various programs and organizations focusing on areas from robotics to college and career exploration, athletics, staff leadership and development, school beautification, and other strategic priority areas. I want to acknowledge the following gifts and grants, which were $100,000 or more. That is the Annie E. Casey Foundation, $140,000 for the Secondary Success and Innovation Office, Baltimore Gas and Electric, $300,000 for a 4-year, $75,000 per year grant to the Secondary Success and Innovation Office, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, $1,763,381, 2-year grant for strategy and continuous improvement, $1,352,921 for year 5 of 6 for the Baltimore Secondary Literacy Improvement Community Grant Initiative, $2,683,256 for year 3 of 5 for the 9th grade On Track to Graduate Grant Initiative, Charles and Lynn Strauss Schusterman Family Foundation, $219,038 for the Teaching and Learning Office. Dream Big, $111,502 for the Family and Community Engagement Office for year 1 of 2-year grant. National Collaborative for Accelerated Learning, $100,000 for the Teaching and Learning Office robotics program. Under Armour, $195,440 for continued renovation efforts. The Wallace Foundation, $1,890,000 for year 2 of 5 for the Equity Office. William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, $250,000 to the Family and Community Engagement Office and the Chief of Staff. Additionally, the Heart of School Fund, which supported initiatives by school leaders who applied for grants, received a total of $108,430 across 38 schools. On behalf of the Board of School Commissioners and City Schools, I'd like to thank the Fund for Educational Excellence for stewarding these contributions on behalf of our system. For nearly 25 years, the Fund for Educational Excellence has worked in close partnership with the City School CEO and leadership team to understand ways in which philanthropy can advance the priorities of our school district. It is those supportive partners and their philanthropic resources that further the educational standards of our students that our students deserve. So can you all just help me give a quick round of applause to our amazing donors? Thank you all. Is there a motion to approve the PEP and quasi judicial matters?
So moved, Robert.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
Is there a second?
Second, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Sally. All in favor? Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay, Commissioner Muhammad,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sally,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
Thank you, and I am also in favor. That motion passes unanimously. I will now turn it over to Dr. Santelises for CEO comments.
Thank you, Chair McFadden. It is now my pleasure to invite Chief Emily Nielsen for this evening's PEP agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Santelises. Good evening, commissioners. For tonight's PEP agenda, if you're present, please feel free to stand up so that we can acknowledge you. And if you are online, feel free to turn on your camera so that we can congratulate you as well. Appointments from the Office of the Chief Academic Officer. Recommended that Brooke Grams, currently Educational Specialist 2, Library Services, be appointed Coordinator, Library and Media Services, effective September 13th, 2023. Recommended that Joy Guthrie, currently Literacy Coach at Gardenville Elementary, be appointed Coordinator, Literacy Coaching, effective September 13th, 2023. Recommended that Sophia Ray, currently Educational Specialist 2, TSI Program Manager, Multi-Tiered Systems of Support, be appointed Coordinator, Academic Tutoring, Multi-Tiered Systems of Support, effective September 13th, 2023. Recommended that Tiffany Whitaker, currently Literacy Coach, be appointed Coordinator, Literacy Coaching, effective September 13th, 2023. Recommended that Arthur Sadie, currently Educational Specialist 2, Secondary Literacy, be appointed Coordinator, Literacy, effective September 13th, 2023. Appointments from the Office of the Chief of Schools. Recommended that Davelyn Cunningham, currently Managing Assistant Principal at KIPP Harmony, be appointed Principal at KIPP Harmony, effective September 13th, 2023. Recommended that Kendra Brooks, currently Chief of Arts, Learning Academies, Arts for Learning Maryland, be appointed Coordinator, Student Wholeness, effective September 25th, 2023. Recommended that Chantel Ward, currently Educational Recommended that Chantel Ward, currently Educational Associate 10-month at Mount Royal Elementary Middle, be appointed Assistant Principal at Mount Royal Elementary Middle, effective September 13th, 2023. Now for the CEO notification from the Office of the Chief Academic Officer, a reassignment. Don Shirey, currently Director 21st Century Learning, be reassigned Director Virtual Learning and Instructional Technology, effective September 13th, 2023. And a reassignment from the Office of the Chief of Schools. Deborah Holt, currently resident principal at Hartford Heights Elementary, be reassigned resident principal at Curtis Bay Elementary, effective September 13th, 2023. That's tonight's PEP.
Thank you very much, Chief Nielsen. As has become our practice, I will also read a blurb on our one principal candidate, our one principal appointment this evening, Davlin Cunningham. She came to KIPP in June 2005, serving in a variety of roles until 2010, when she took time away to focus on her family. She returned as a 6th grade math teacher in 2015, subsequently serving as a special education teacher, instructional coach, and 504 chair before being named assistant principal in February 2022. Ms. Cunningham received a bachelor's in sociology and African American studies from Rutgers University, where she also played on the women's, I did not know this, women's Final Four basketball team. She received a Master of Science in Education from Johns Hopkins University and a graduate certificate in administration and supervision from Trinity Washington University. Congratulations, Principal Cunningham. Now I would like to begin, oh yes, please clap, I'm sorry. Thank you. I want to thank the board for assisting me with that one. I would like to begin the programmatic notations this evening by recognizing this year's winner of the CEO Cup for the Best Baltimore City Junior ROTC, JROTC unit for the 2022-23 school year. All units in city schools compete annually for this honor by participating in citywide competitions and activities. And the winning unit will display the trophy in their school for the following year. It is now my pleasure to recognize the JROTC unit at Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. They served as our color guard this evening, and they are our official 2022-23 winner. Cadet Commander William Donahue is stepping forward and accepting the CEO Cup with our congratulations. And I will say I am really glad I was told I do not have to lift this. So congratulations. I also want to thank Lieutenant Colonel Dave Moon, who's retired, as the JROTC Director for City Schools, just for your continued support for this very valuable program. Congratulations, gentlemen. Can we take a picture? Chair McCollum?
Yeah.
Emily is the board chair. He's very good.
Just this way. We'll say
You want to do it this way? Okay. You want to do this?
Let them be see you. Second Lieutenant, Senior Master Sergeant, Major. I still got it.
No.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Oh, okay. As everyone knows, last week we experienced an extended period of unusually severe heat, with heat indexes exceeding 100 degrees for several days. In response to this heat wave, we shifted to virtual learning for our small number of non-AC schools and dismissed several other schools early when their HVAC units had trouble cooling their buildings sufficiently at different points during the week. I would like everyone to bear in mind that the district's buildings overall are the oldest of any school district in the state, and numerous buildings need significant system upgrades or HVAC replacement. Since 2017, we have lowered the number of non-AC schools from 75 to just 10 buildings, which is a remarkable accomplishment, especially considering that several schools without AC are waiting to move into brand new buildings. At the same time, air conditioning plants at several schools with AC failed due to the strain created by the extreme heat. We also need to recognize that school systems across Maryland, the entire Mid-Atlantic area, and many other regions across the country experienced similar problems in recent weeks. It appears that our temperatures are moderating for the near term, so we will hopefully not experience further disruption due to heat. I want to thank our operations team for their hard work around the clock during this challenging heat period to keep our schools operating as comfortably as possible. The other piece that I want to note is that the first 2 weeks of school, I had the opportunity to visit with many of our brand new school principals in their school buildings. It was great to be back in some similar buildings, but with new principals, buildings like Rosemont Elementary Middle and Walter P. Carter. With new principals. We had the opportunity to really see, not just at those two schools, but at many others, new leaders really already mobilizing their staff, moving things along. I was at Robert Coleman. That principal was already out in neighborhoods, making calls to families who had not yet shown up to school. So I just want to give a big shout out to the first year principals who did not bar me from coming into the school, but rather invited me in, and I got to see some really great first efforts. And I do want to say again, a big kudos to a very strong start to the school year. So thank you, everyone, and a particular thank you to our district's brand new first-time principals. Friday's announcement regarding federal charges against a school police employee, especially those involving overtime use, is both disappointing and unacceptable. A single act threatens to undermine the work and public confidence in the school police officers who support our schools and students to create safe learning environments daily. Over the past several years, we have made significant progress over the way our officers conduct their work on the ground. Notably, we have improved how we select, train, and deploy our officers. And in 2022, we updated the general orders for the school police force to better meet the requirements of their duties. Most importantly, we know that many school police officers build meaningful and important relationships with our young people throughout the city. There have been questions raised about our actions as the federal inquiry occurred. I want you to know that we did not stand still and silent as it took place. As the federal investigation was pending, we made definitive corrective steps, including tightening our procedures for the assignment, monitoring, and recording of overtime. An officer no longer administers overtime. That duty is now the responsibility of a new school police business officer, a business manager. We have also added an administrator to ensure our new procedures are implemented and our record keeping is modernized, including updates to digitize outdated and paper-heavy systems. To strengthen our oversight, I have immediately asked the Chief of Staff to head efforts to further improve the administrative processes and procedures for school police. The Chief of Staff will work with the new school police administrator, along with staff in our finance and information technology officers, schools office, to ensure all monitoring, verification, and data systems for school police are sound and support our officers' daily work in the field. The Chief of Schools will continue to manage the day-to-day operations of school police. For the past months, we have collaborated closely with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI, and we will continue to monitor the legal proceedings to identify any other critical actions to ensure that our school police have the systems they need to effectively support the safety of our school communities. And I would now like to congratulate Chief Emily Nielsen and the entire Human Capital team for an outstanding job in recruiting new teachers. Thanks to an early start and their unrelenting focus, we hired more than 840 teachers for the start of the 23-24 school year. In previous years, please do. In previous years on record, we normally hired 600 to 680 teachers per year. So this is truly a significant increase driven by new teacher positions as well as new opportunities into which teachers were promoted, like literacy coach and assistant principal. I think it's important to note here that the human capital team did this hiring alongside principals and did it without a closing period in those last 3 weeks before school, and yet and still we had a successful first pay. So shout out to the human capital team. Again, 840 teachers for the start of the school year is a new, I believe, city schools record. So congratulations and much appreciation. Sure. Commissioner Reed asked for Chief Nielsen and any members of the team that are here or on screen to either come on screen or stand up. So if you could come on up. Yay. Thank you, Commissioner Reed. Finally, I want to remind everyone that we are offering free immunization clinics right here at the district office through September 30th. No insurance or appointment is required. Satellite clinics will also start this week at specific schools, which will also serve as hubs for schools in the surrounding area that have students that need to be immunized. Please check our website or your school for more information and help protect your child and all our students by getting a free immunization this month. I want to give special thanks to Executive Director Sonia Goodwin and her team for their unprecedented efforts to get every student immunized for the new school year. And Chair McFadden, that concludes my remarks for this evening. Oh, one last thing. I do want to give a shout out to all school staff who came out on Sunday for our call-a-thon to families. Kudos to Lori Hines and her team, again, under Executive Director Goodwin, and then members across city schools, people like Dr. Durant, who don't necessarily reside in that office, but who came out to call. And just want to remind everybody of the importance of attendance and being here. So also another shout out of thanks to the team who was here over the weekend making calls to families. And with that, I will now turn it back to you, Chair McFadden.
Thank you, Dr. Santelises. It's cool to see on social media, just a shout out to the comms team too, the social media challenges, the attendance challenges with our students and the dancing that they're doing to kind of spark interest in being in school each and every day. We know that that's important. that not only are, and the vice chair and I was talking about it, it is one thing to start the school off, with all of this excitement. It's another thing for us as a community to wrap around our young people throughout the duration of the year, to make sure that they maintain that excitement. And a lot goes into that, right? The development of teachers and making sure that schools are supported so that students actually want to be there, making sure that they feel whole and safe. That's all a part of the process. So we all have a collective responsibility to ensure that our students continue to have that excitement, not just on day one, but throughout the remaining 179 of those days. So thank you to all of our school leaders, our teachers. Thank you to the ILEDs and the directors that we see in the gallery tonight in the back. Your work doesn't always get recognized by us in the way that I want to take some privilege to celebrate you all tonight. So thank you to our ILEDs that are here, our chiefs, everyone that's here that makes City Schools go round. You all are the life and breath of City Schools. So thank you all for the work that you all do. I'm actually now going to transition to committee reports, and I believe Commissioner Slater-Harrington has a report from Teaching and Learning, which met last week.
Sure. The Teaching and Learning Committee met on Tuesday, September 5th, and we received an update on the Community Schools RFP by the wonderful Chief Hike Hubbard and her team. We learned that 13 organizations were approved to provide leader agency services through a request for proposal process. These organizations will receive 3-year contracts with an option for renewal. And schools did have the opportunity to review and interview prospective lead agencies. And just FYI, we've also learned that the number of community schools has grown from 133 last school year to 155 this school year. We are excited to have a broader overview of the community school strategy to the full board in October.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater-Harrington. Thank you for that update. No other committees have met since our last public meeting. So thank you for that update. Any questions for the Teaching and Learning Committee? Thank you, folks. I'm now going to move into the consent agenda. We'll review it. Let me know if you would like to have an item removed and state your clarifying thought or question for staff if you are interested in pulling an item. Item 8.01, Friends of Great Kids Farm, Policy FKA Waiver Request. Item 16.01, Fuel Education LLC. Commissioner Coy?
Which committee did that one go through, the fuel education? Do you know off the top of your head?
It went through Teaching and Learning last week.
I do have a couple questions about it, but if it went through the Teaching and Learning Committee, that might have answered some of the questions. Some of the questions that I do have are just trying to understand sort of the scope of the virtual substitutes and how those are being managed, or how those are being supported, how many students each one supports, and some of those. Just trying to understand a little bit more, but if
Gotcha. So you want to pull that for questions?
yes, please, thank you.
Thank you. Item 8.01, Friends of Great Kids Farm, that policy waiver, we are going to pull that just for a few questions for Commissioner Coy. No. 16.01, Fuel Education. 8.01 is fine. Any additional questions? Commissioner Kenyatta Bay did ask some of that in our meeting, but we'll have it pulled for questions. We'll now move into public comment. Speakers from recognized groups will have the opportunity to speak for 5 minutes. We will first have, are you all first tonight? Yes, you are. I was just like, oh my goodness. We have Diamond Tay Brown representing the Baltimore Teachers Union.
So first, I would like to start with thanking the board for coming to a few tentative agreements with the BTU during negotiations. We've been able to agree on things like pay all year option, international teachers, class coverage, home and hospital additional planning, library media specialists, additional resources. At the same time, we were not able to agree on several items, and unfortunately, they will be going to impasse. We have about 17 items we weren't able to agree on, and they would have substantially improved the working conditions of our staff and the learning conditions of our students. They include things like compensation, school year, teaching schedules, prep time, workload, furniture, supplies, safe and secure schools, safe and healthy schools, negative comments, sick leave, religious leave, athletics, student testing coordinators. We were especially disappointed that the board continues to reject our proposal on workload, safe and secure schools, and compensation. The board continues to offer us an insultingly low COLA, and at the same time tonight, consider voting on giving virtual substitutes over $6 million just for 55 of them. This is insulting to the Baltimore Teachers Union. And unfortunately, the board believes that their low offer is in stride with other districts. That's just not accurate. Our offer is actually in stride with other districts, and our offer properly compensates staff for the poor working conditions that staff in most other surrounding districts aren't subjected to. In the Fund for Educational Excellence report, one of our teachers pointed out that not only are we being asked to teach our course loads, we're down teachers. On your prep period, we're asking you to sub for these classes. Our classes are bigger. The kids need more support. On top of that, we're short-staffed. And then city school staff also continue to experience traumatic working conditions, unlike other people in Maryland. Unfortunately, our students are being murdered on a regular basis. We have a lack of basic resources and needs like water, heating and cooling, a space to work, books. We have a lack of commitment from our district on receiving our income that we earn in a reasonable amount of time. And unfortunately, we have an unwelcoming and misguided certification office. And that's even if we get a response at all from them. The board continues to reject BTU's workload proposal and instead believes that all we need is a workload committee. We've already communicated ways to improve our workload in several different committee settings, meetings, emails. None of our ideas have been adopted. So we have no faith that going into another committee will help decrease our workload. We don't need a conversation. We need the board to direct the BCPSS district leadership team to implement the ways that we propose to decrease our workload. And lastly, I want to share that it is an absolute shame that the board continues to reject our proposal on safe and secure schools. We're just asking for the ability to lock doors to our offices and classrooms, and for existing, not even new parking lots, just existing ones, to be well lit. Therefore, the BTU will be filing to go to impasse. We will be prepared to fight the board in impasse to get the best working conditions and learning conditions possible for our staff and students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming tonight. I'll now turn it over to the Board Executive Officer for the duration of public comment.
Thank you, Chair. We have 3 videos and 1 live public comment in person. So we'll start with the videos. The first is from Militia Schroeper.
Tanisha, we don't have any sound on our end.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Schober, and I'm testifying tonight in a personal capacity. At the last board meeting, staff presented the compliance report for school choice. In the discussion that followed, commissioners asked about racial, ethnic, and other disparities. I appreciate those concerns, but would like to call attention to other equity issues. In discussing choice, schools were presented as mostly equivalent options. This is nearly every high school in the city. Alternate and separate public day programs are removed, leaving 28 options. But are these options equivalent, and is there meaningful choice for all young people? Imagine a male student. His mom wants him to attend a school where most graduate. If we reduce the list to schools where 75% of students graduate in 4 years, we are left with only 13 choices from the original 28. The student has a 680 composite score, well above the 610 needed to apply to an entrance criteria school. His mom feels confident until someone tells her to look at the choice guide. All the way down on page 22, she learns the lowest actually admitted score was above 700. She crosses entrance criteria schools off the list. That leaves just 8 options. Of those, BSA closes their application early before the traditional process even begins. Design requires a separate application and portfolio. BARD requires another application plus an essay and interview. Each charter requires a separate application, then the traditional choice application. By my count, that's 7 applications, 1 portfolio, 1 addition, 1 essay, and 1 interview in a process that could span from before Thanksgiving until after the charter lotteries in late February. All this just to attend a high school where 75% of students graduate in 4 years. There is indeed choice, but is it quality choice for every young person? The compliance report doesn't seem to bring itself to investigate how it is that a disproportionately low share of children with disabilities attend the entrance criteria schools with high graduation rates. Instead, somehow they end up at schools with graduation rates below the district average. Similarly, compliance discussions can acknowledge that where you live matters, as staff did at the last meeting, but never mention policy JCAA on rezoning. 2 major institutions, the BPD and the City Council, have or are in the process of rezoning to reflect the city's significant demographic shifts, but not the school system. Instead, our policy codifies and compounds advantage for those with ready access to honors and ingenuity programming, those that can parse multiple incongruous deadlines, and those with a car or the fortitude for unlit, unsheltered bus stops. The board's responsibilities begin in policy BBA, which includes a commitment to eliminating inequitable practices and structures. Continuing school choice as it exists today, especially when combined with a refusal to comprehensively rezone or relocate programs, is an abdication of your governance responsibilities.
Thank you. Next, we have Salima Jasani, also a video.
Give me 1 second, please.
a former Baltimore City Public School. Good evening. I'm Salima Jasani, a former Baltimore City Public Schools teacher, a special education expert, and an education consultant. I'm here on behalf of the Votes Coalition to discuss increasing representation of our English learner students in district decision-making, including in the context of Policy BBB. First, we want to appreciate the CEO and the board for your support of Senate Bill 31, which made the student board member selection process more equitable and democratic. SB 31 also establishes a task force to study compensation and student members, which unfortunately has not yet been formed. We urge the board, especially the chair who has the authority to appoint task force members, to request the mayor to seat the task force as soon as possible. Now let's discuss our English learner population, the fastest growing and in fact only growing student group in Baltimore City Public Schools. To frame this issue, I'd like to introduce a tool I use frequently in my work, the Impact Times Representation Matrix. This tool encourages districts to identify and engage constituents highly impacted by decisions, but underrepresented in decision-making. In our district, English learners fall into this fourth quadrant, lacking representation in our teaching workforce, school leadership, central office staff, and on this board. Policy BBB requires that at least one board member possess expertise in the education of students with disabilities, but it lacks a similar requirement for expertise in the education of English learners. Policy BBB does state that board members should reflect the city's demographics, but it does not explicitly name English learners or immigrant students. For reference, 17% of the city is Hispanic Latino, and 12% of our students are English learners, and this percentage continues to grow. While we acknowledge Commissioner Kenyatta Bay's ESOL background, as well as the commitment of every commissioner on this board to serve our English learner students, we advocate for codifying this specific expertise to ensure it persists beyond your board service and becomes part of your legacy. Beyond board representation, we are concerned about the underrepresentation of employees and leaders with expertise in EL education. As an immigrant and former English learner, I can attest to the profound impact of a teacher who shares their students' identity. I've experienced this both as a student and as a city schools teacher. Therefore, the Votes Coalition seeks to collaborate with the board and CEO to understand your plans for long-term representation of English learners. Our two questions are, how will you attract and retain highly qualified professionals with expertise in this population? And how can we support you as a partner externally? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next comment will be from Nathan Farrell, on video as well. He's a teacher and community member.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Nathan Farrell, and I'd like to thank the Board and the CEO for supporting Senate Bill 31. Policy BBB states that to the extent practicable, the appointed members of the Board shall reflect the demographic composition of Baltimore City. Currently, 17% of city school students identify as Latinx or Hispanic, and 12% of students are English language learners. When talking with community members, educators, students, and families, we hear concerns around issues of language justice and the lack of a plan to prioritize, recruit, and hire central office staff to reflect demographic changes of our student population. We acknowledge this board's diversity, and we commend the district on recruiting educators to reflect the majority population of the students we serve. However, diversity in our hiring pipeline is at risk due to the failure of this board to negotiate compensation packages to recruit and retain educators. It's also at risk due to the board's failure to address the certification crisis in any meaningful way, which disproportionately affects our multilingual and historically marginalized educators, directly impacting diversity in our ranks. We commend the district on the Multilingual Enrollment and Support Center and for hiring more bilingual and Latinx paraeducators. This is a step towards language justice. City voters elected Commissioner Kenyatta Bay, whose experience with English language learning is essential. However, Commissioner Bay's experience was not enough to prevent this board's rejection of nearly 14 contract proposals from BTU that would significantly improve the learning conditions of English language learners and the working conditions of the professionals who serve them. The gaps in leadership and representation at all levels of city schools is in opposition to language justice, and it's felt through decisions made in staffing and hiring. For example, our multilingual school support staff are being pulled from their job titles as paraeducators to serve as long-term substitutes to fill teacher vacancies. It's an equity issue and potentially a violation of Title III fund use. Another example is the district recruits highly qualified bilingual educators from Puerto Rico and then takes them out of their certification areas of math, science, elementary ed, the arts, and makes them Spanish teachers instead of letting them teach in their expert content areas. The few multilingual educators in our system we have are overburdened. Staff, students, and families gravitate to these teachers for social and emotional support, language assistance, legal guidance, and more. The AIB's guidance acknowledges the importance of Grow Your Own programs and pair-to-teacher programs. Currently, the district has none. City Schools acknowledges to the AIB that the Teacher Academy of Maryland needs a restart in the district. We agree. How can we help? How can we ensure that these pipelines recruit multilingual candidates? AIB feedback to the district blueprint plans note that our Judy centers who serve communities who speak a language other than English at home require a different approach and strategy at that center compared to what the district is currently doing. How can we help the district to achieve language justice for the students and communities we serve? We find it concerning that the Equity Advisory Committee's findings focus on trainings and reviews of various policies, not about the underlying data or specific outcomes of the program, nor does the EAC's findings address the currently existing equity gaps for our multilingual communities. This is not language justice. What's the board's plan to make concrete steps towards ensuring that we are working towards language justice for the families and communities we serve? Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one more comment in person. This will be Janet Bailey. Go ahead and come forward. You'll have 3 minutes.
Ms. Janet, make sure that when you press the button on the mic, it will turn green so we can there you go.
Leave it green.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening again. My name is Janet Bailey. I'm a cafeteria manager at Cecil Elementary, 007, a little closer to heaven. I am here tonight on behalf of my wages. I am living below the poverty level. I am, if not the first person the kids see in the morning. I sometimes open the door if someone else or the custodian is not around. I greet the kids with a smile, good morning, hot breakfast and cold breakfast, but I'm being underpaid. And I'm the manager and I make less than the staff. Okay, I worked all through COVID-19 at St. Clair Lane, number 248, where we served 1,500 to 2,000 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, snack, and supper. We were, if not the highest feeding site in Baltimore City Public Schools during the time when Baltimore City Schools were shut down. I worked each and every day. They also did an interview, New York Times did an interview on me. It was called Schools Transform into Relief Kitchens, but Federal Aid Fails to Keep Up. What if the teachers made more than principals? Would there be something done? Something has to be done. As a manager, like I said, I'm making less than my staff, which is unfair. So this evening, I have attached this letter. I don't know if I have enough for everybody. My wages, the article from the New York Times, and also what the New York City cafeteria manager is making. I'm only making $18.68 an hour, and I'm feeding kids. And what you didn't mention, you said operation. You forgot about food and nutrition, because that's a major part, because most of our kids live in, feet, but they're not being fed. They come to school this morning. I fed 160 kids at Cecil Elementary, and I do it. I love my job, and I do it for smile. I want to be paid. That's all. Pay me so I can pay my bills and keep living. That's all. I thank y'all this evening for your time. My phone number's attached, and I have like 10 or 11 of these.
If you
Everyone can
can
take one.
give them to Dr. Judkins there, and
Okay.
he'll make sure that we all get them.
Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you,
Hope
thank
to hear
you,
from someone
thank
soon.
you. Yes, ma'am, thank you.
And that was our last public comment.
Thank you, Dr. Judkins. We are going to go to the item that was pulled from consent. And that is 16.01 fuel education. I see Dr. Dabrowski. I see Chief Davis, Chief Nielsen. Bring up the chiefs. Thank you, Dr. Judkins.
So good evening. Yes, we are all co-authors of that particular board letter. So, and we are collaborating across offices in service of this work. So, get it? Okay. All right. So good evening. So we're here across offices. We have co-authored that board letter. We work both in human capital, in the schools and academics to support the certified virtual substitutes. Commissioner McCoy, if you want to talk to us again about what exact questions are coming up for you on this one.
Yeah, so part of my questions are just to understand a little bit more about how many students are anticipated per virtual educator, and a little bit more about the structure of that virtual education. I imagine it's different than what we have done in sort of COVID during school closures. We're just trying to understand like what this looks like in practice.
Yep. So we currently, so our contract with Stride is a size of between 45 and 55 total virtual substitutes at the secondary level. So getting to the exact number of students will be supported really does depend on how many sections they're teaching and how many students within that section. Currently, we have 24 certified virtual substitutes placed in 16 schools. So that's sort of where we are now, but there is room as we anticipate others may be looking to fill their vacancies. I want to let Chief Nielsen talk a little bit about why we are engaging in this work, because I think that's important, and then I can talk a bit more about how we're supporting them.
So these certified virtual subs are covering vacancies that we haven't been able to find an in-person teacher for in secondary English, math, and science, and Spanish. So there is an in-person facilitator who monitors for classroom management, and then the sub is virtually teaching the class. As Dr. Dabrowski mentioned, they've started in a variety of schools. We do still have schools that have vacancies in those areas and are working with them to see if this would be a good fit for their need at their school. So even though we hired more teachers than ever before, we do still have vacancies in these areas. And this is one of the tactics that we use to provide high quality instruction to students.
So, and I'll just say, then I'll have Chief Davis talk about how this is sort of happening in the schools, but then academics helps with the onboarding to ensure that they're using our curriculum. So we provide training and support. Stride also is checking, and they have their internal systems for how they're supporting and ensuring that their requirements for their employees are being met. So the alignment around using our curriculum was really important in this initiative so that students would be receiving our curriculum. And as Chief Nielsen mentioned, the certified teacher is virtual, but there's an in-person facilitator there to help support instruction. So Chief Davis, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about how it's happening in schools.
Besides the basics on, yes, the in-person facilitator that every classroom has to have, there's always a degree of onboarding that is particular to the school, right? So if a school has certain routines and certain expectations in a school, then not only are there expectations through Baltimore City or the company, but also through that particular school. So it might be a literacy coach or a math coach or an assistant principal that works with them just to make sure that they are aligned with what they're doing in the school.
In terms of understanding the effectiveness of this approach as it's implemented over the course of the year, how are you all looking at that? You know, obviously, you've outlined that some of this is originating because of just a need that, there's not certified teachers. But I'm trying to understand is how will you know the degree to which this is advancing the education at the level that would be desired for these subject areas?
Sorry, so in the letter, it talks a little bit about the evaluation systems that are built in. So last year we had 45 certified virtual substitutes across the district. We would do site visits to check. Stride would also, Stride's the company would also do site visits with us and be checking in with sort of the overall satisfaction of how this was working. Again, there's an evaluation side for Stride and as well as the evaluation of our principals working with those. So that level of oversight will continue this year. I will say that overall, the responses that we heard last year was this was favorable. And again, I want to go back to the reason we're doing this is for this shortage, chronic shortage area. So while I think the optimum is always that we'd have a fully certified teacher in our classrooms in person, we know that this space of virtual actually offers an opportunity to mitigate that in a way that having an uncertified substitute would look, I think, very different. So we know that these teachers are receiving training on our curriculum and they're coming to us as certified in that particular content area. If you want to talk.
Yeah. Beyond, right, following up with our principals, we also followed up with students to get some idea about them as well. So we'll continue that ongoing. And also during the year, if a partnership with a school doesn't work out, we'll make that change. I know we probably made a few changes. I know I can think of one that we just had to do that because it wasn't working out with that particular virtual substitute teacher. And so that's part of the ongoing kind of nimbleness that we can have around this when we need to.
Any additional questions? Commissioner Reed?
Yeah, I guess something was raised earlier before you spoke about compensation. So the compensation for the virtual teacher is commensurate with the compensation for a regular teacher? That's one question. And two, in terms of the integration, we as a board can be comfortable that the learning from a virtual teacher is basically the same as a classroom teacher. I mean, can we, those are two questions, but.
Sure. We do have a contract price that we pay for each virtual teacher, which we were able to negotiate down. So it is commensurate with what teachers are making in the district. The virtual subs do not get benefits, so they don't have the total rewards that our teachers experience. They just get the pay that comes through the company that we contract with.
And I think the question around the instruction, it is different than what an in-person 8th grade maths classroom looks like. And what we've learned from our virtual learning is that we were clear when we were going into this that we would start at secondary, so the 6 through 12, because students are older. And we were also being very intentional around the particular content that we could ensure could be taught using our curriculum. So I think we've put in some clear guardrails to ensure that it's not going to be apples to apples. It's a different experience when you're having a virtual teacher, but we are putting in effect into place some clear sort of criteria and guidelines around curriculum, training, support, and that in-person facilitator to ensure that students are engaged and are making sure that they're on pace with what the virtual instructor is doing.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay, and just, are there any other questions? I want to make sure that I don't miss them. Okay, Kenyatta Bay.
Just a real quick question. The benefits in this as we move away from, let's be real, we're moving away from brick and mortar. It's a thing of the future. Are we learning how to implement this? And are we using plans to utilize this in our forward motion? Because, that's basically the question I have.
So I would say, while this is a model that we're using due to staffing needs and teacher shortages, we do have our virtual learning program. And that is a space where we are learning and practicing some innovative methodologies and such using that virtual learning space. And we are absolutely thinking about what is the plan for that going forward, knowing that there will likely always be a space where we can use virtual to expand learning opportunities for students, both in a program that might be fully virtual or also in our access to advanced academics and elective courses. So I think the virtual substitute model, yes, we are certainly learning about it. In fact, earlier today, I was in conversation around how there may be other services that can be received virtually in other areas that we have shortages. So there certainly is a place for it, but I do want to distinguish between sort of a substitute model versus a virtual learning program that is certainly geared for a student who is optimally served in a virtual space. Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. And thank you to the chiefs. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move, Sally.
Thank you, Commissioner Sally. Is there a second?
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. All in favor, Vice Chair Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Coy?
Yes.
Commissioner Eblaki?
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito?
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay?
Yes.
Commissioner Muhammad?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sally?
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington?
Yes.
And I am in favor. That motion passes unanimously. Notice of our upcoming meetings. Tuesday, September 19th, 2023 at 10:30 a.m. The Operations Committee will meet virtually. Policy Committee will meet Tuesday, September 19th, the same day at 4 p.m. virtually. The next executive session of the board will be on Tuesday, September 26th at 3:30 p.m. here in the third floor conference room. And that same evening, beginning at 5 p.m., will be our public meeting. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you, Commissioner Roberts, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second. Slater Harrington.
I'll take Slater Harrington. Is there any unreadiness? Hearing none, all in favor, please answer by saying yes.
1, 2, 3. Yes.
Any opposed? Hearing none, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned this evening. Please have a safe evening, and we will see you soon.